Hello everyone, it's Helen at Journaling Planet, and today I'm going to be doing a very relaxing activity using a cancelled credit card to do some mark making. The whole point of this exercise is to experiment, not try to control things too much, in order to see what new things I can create with something that is, of course, at the end of the day, a piece of trash. So I just started by masking up a piece of card. For all the time that I take masking this up and making sure the boxes are as close to the same size as they can be, I then find out later when I pull the masking tape up that I should have used the hairdryer on it first, because it does, unfortunately, rip the card. So just a reminder to all of you who think I'll just skip that step, which is what I decided to do here, that can cause you problems, and I will not do that again in this particular series of projects that I'm going to be doing on mark making, because marks from ripping up masking tape do rather bother me, rather annoying. I started out with some black acrylic paint, thinking about the different directions that I could move the credit card in the space. In that last one that I've just done, the line didn't go all the way across the box. That's okay. The idea is to be imperfect and to not try and make things perfect as you go. You're just making some marks and seeing what comes out of the process. Now that swirl that I just did ends up being my favourite, my favourite of the bunch. And I decided that I would, as well as use the black acrylic, that I was also going to use some blue ink. How long this blue ink has been sitting in my stash for, I honestly couldn't tell you. A very long time. And it was on sale somewhere, I think at a car boot sale. And it was really heavily discounted. And I thought, oh, I'm sure that'll come in handy. And of course, it sat and sat and sat in my stash and hasn't been used. So one of the reasons that I'm doing these mark making pieces, and I'm going to be doing a few different ones on the channel, is to actually start using some of the mark making liquids and paints and inks that I've acquired over the time that I've been doing this hobby. It is, at the end of the day, supposed to be a hobby where I use the things that I have, not where they just sit on a shelf and I just kind of, obsess over getting the perfect project for them. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is, of course, to start developing my art a little bit more and give myself the confidence to just figure out, play, experiment with what's going on the page. And I have to say, by the end of this experiment, I really did feel like I'd done that. I felt like I had actually learned something about the kind of marks I like to make with this particular tool, the cancelled credit card. Such an expensive craft tool, costs you a fortune. Well, it can do if you spent a lot on it when it was active, I suppose. I think this is a really good reminder, using a cancelled credit card, of the fact that there are things to mark make with all around our house, and we do not need to buy specific artist tools. Although if you have the money and that's what you want to do, then no one's going to stop you. But if you don't have the money, or you don't want to buy new things just for environmental purposes, then there is a lot lying around that can be utilized. And of course, at this point, I realized that I wanted to draw around the inside of the grids, and I forgot to do that before removing the first couple of pieces of masking tape. So now I have the unenviable task of trying to draw straight lines in black ink in order to fill in the gaps where the masking tape was. I shall, note to self, remember to draw around the grids before removing any masking tape. I keep all these mistakes in to show you that a craft doesn't have to be perfect to turn out well, for you to learn something from it and for you to essentially find value in that activity. So this doesn't turn out like the most perfect piece of mark making you've ever seen on the internet, but it taught me some things about what I enjoyed using with the credit card, the lines, and also the paints. Like, I did like the ink, but I found that the marks that I made with it were perhaps less defined, which makes sense. It's more watery, whereas the paint is thicker, so it's going to hold those shapes and textures easier. So although that may seem obvious until you actually do it yourself and make note of that, you can go through life or your artwork not actually paying attention to that, and then possibly pulling out a tool that doesn't work so well for you when you go to do a finished piece of work. So nearly got all this masking tape off, and as you can see, quite a lot of tearing on the card. Wasn't thrilled about that, so that will be different next time. And then what I need to do now is make my label for this, because this piece is going to sit in a journal where all my mark making will sit. My plan is to essentially create a sort of mark making catalogue for me to look back on. And on each one, I will note, what I used to make the marks. And I also do a little bit of handwriting at the bottom of the page so that I remember what the experience was like of working with that material. For me, part of the process I'm going through at the moment is figuring out what things work best for me, what I like most when I put ink or paint to paper. And it's only recently dawned on me that a good way to do that would be to do little grids like this and experiment with different media. So my idea is that I'm going to catalogue all of my mark making in this notebook, and each one will have a label, and each one will have a bit of handwriting at the bottom explaining which things I liked best and perhaps why that's the case. So in this case, I do like all of the marks that were made with the black and the blue ink. And I actually do like black and blue as a colour combination. That's something else that I learnt from this process. But I think my favourite one is the one in the top left corner with the kind of swirls to it. And to me, the way in which the credit card swirls that black acrylic, and there's kind of gaps in it, you can see some white in it, there's real texture there. So I have learned that that's actually one of my favourite ways to make marks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cancel credit card, and I'm going to get some paper, some junk mail paper, and I'm going to fill a whole page with those marks and use it for collage fodder. So the idea is to keep using that technique once I've learned that I like it. And for each series that I do as well, I'm numbering them, so it just makes it easier to make notes. So in this case, I'm going to be saying that my favourite design is in fact number 1, which is the swirly pattern. And I'm going to be explaining that the texture to it really appeals to me. Have you ever done any mark making like this? And what did you benefit from if you did? I think that this activity is really relaxing, but more than that, it also taught me a lot about the kind of marks I enjoy making. There was some merit in all 6 of the different marks that I made, but there were some that were very obviously more to my taste and actually felt more natural to me as I made them on the page. That's something I'm really going to take note of moving forward in my artwork. If you've found this video entertaining or useful, please do hit the subscribe button, give it a like, and leave a comment down below to let me know how you might use this in your artwork. It really is so lovely to communicate with you all and hear about all the things that you're getting up to in your artwork. So thank you so much for watching. There'll be a new video soon, and I'll see you next time.